My name's Fiona Scott. I've been a journalist forever, for 30 years, and I've worked on the local newspaper here in Swindon, and I've worked in hospital radio, and I've worked for ITV television and the BBC, and I still do a lot of that today. I have spent my whole career amplifying other people's voices. I do that in my own PR business today, and I do that with celebrities on the TV, making them look the best that they can be. But in reflecting on what I was going to say to you tonight, I thought I'd share a few things with you about what it's like being a woman in the media and what it was like when I started in the 1980s. I was brought up in a low-income family in Somerset. Nobody had ever had a professional job in my family, so I was a bit of a black sheep. I don't think my grandparents or parents ever really understood me. But when I went into newspapers, I never thought about, all I thought about was doing a job that I loved. I never thought about my gender as being an issue. But one day I was in Keynsham near Bristol in the office, and another journalist who was then at that time in his 50s thought it would be okay to come up and start stroking the back of my neck. Now, ladies, you know when something just doesn't feel right, don't we? When something just doesn't feel right. So I asked this chap to stop, but he did it every time. So I began to really fear him being in the same room as me. And these rooms were very long and thin. You couldn't get past another human being without brushing against them. I did complain to my editor, who said, Fiona, don't make a fuss. Don't make a fuss. And I was like 23 and just starting out my career, so I didn't make a fuss. Did it stop my career? No, but it made me fearful. It made me fearful. And I was a bit surprised that I got it from somebody who was a work colleague. Maybe as a journalist, sometimes you expect you're going to do difficult stories and people might be a bit abusive to you, and I had plenty of that in my career. But I didn't expect it in a place where I expected to be safe. I don't want to overdo this. I went on, I had a great career and I loved my time in local journalism. And then I moved into television. And I discovered two things. One, most people in television in the 1980s came from a public school background. They didn't come from a secondary school working class background, so I immediately felt a little bit on the back foot, but I got over that. It took about 6 weeks. When I realised that I was just as good as them, regardless, and that they actually were really nice people. But abuse was very common between men and women. Now, Jimmy Savile was no news to me. I was waiting for the day that Rolf Harris would be done because I knew someone who'd been abused by him. And there are others, ladies and gentlemen, that will come out. Anyone ever watched the film Spotlight? Watch it. Watch it. That's how you'll see how real journalism is done. Please, please watch it. Journalists like that need to be applauded, and there are very, very few of them about. That's not particularly about women. That was a male and female team. But abuse in the media throughout the 80s and the 90s was rife, especially for young girls. There is a very famous person who, for obvious reasons I cannot name, there used to be an email that would go out when he was in the building warning women under the age of 30 to stay out of the way. That's not reached the public domain yet, but it will. It will in the fullness of time. Things are changing. We are trying to do something about this, but actually I have to say women can be our own worst enemies because we don't speak up. But ladies, I was 50 last year, and gents, and I'm damned if I'm going to be quiet now. This is the time of my life when I'm going to speak up. I run my own business now, and in the small business world, I find that generally men and women are equal. We are all small business people. We all have the same challenges and the same struggles. And I am going to speak up now. And I am fed up in the media of experts almost always being male. And women, if you are experts in your field, you need to be out there. You need to be positive. You need to be speaking about, in my case, small business, women in business. Whatever your thing is, talk about it, share it. It might be art. We all need art, don't we? Art's under huge pressure now. We should be out there saying what art brings to people. It could be a myriad of subjects. The BBC knows, because I work for the BBC, I'm aware of this, that it is not representing women when it interviews people. The budget today is a perfect example of that. I was at a women's event today, and I then had to work and send out 4 stories for clients about the budget. They were all men. All of those businesses have women working in that business, but none of those women stood up and spoke and gave a reaction to the budget for me to send out. And that's just one example. If you're on Twitter or social media, there is something called the Women's Room UK. Please join, it's free to join, and the BBC will routinely look through that resource to try and find women experts that they can interview. That's just one little tip, one little thing everybody can do that will cost them nothing but a bit of time and set yourself as an expert in your field. I should just say I love men. Thank you.